Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a debate that's as old as humanity itself, faith versus skepticism. But here's the twist. We're not going to a church or a science lab to explore it. No, we're going somewhere much more fundamental. A place none of us can actually remember. The womb.
So what if I told you that our biggest, most profound debate, the one about what we believe, actually started before we were even born? That's the core idea we're exploring today. This thought experiment asks us to imagine that our whole search for meaning kicks off long before we ever see the light of day.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine a world that's quiet, warm, and dark. All you can hear are muffled sounds and a steady, rhythmic heartbeat. In this world live our two main characters, a pair of unborn twins. And they're having a conversation that, well, it might just sound a little too familiar.
Right, so let's listen in on their conversation.
So you've got twin A. Let's call them the believer. This one feels something more than just the darkness around them. But then you have twin B, the skeptic, who's just not buying it. They're like, you're talking about the mother myth again? Seriously? Where's the proof?
All right, so let's break down how they each make their case, and this is what's so fascinating. They're both looking at the exact same evidence, but they come to wildly different conclusions.
The believer points to things they can actually feel. They say, hey, feel that heartbeat? It's not ours. And this cord, it's feeding us. Someone is taking care of us. It's all evidence of a loving external source.
But the skeptic hears the same heartbeat, feels the same cord, and says, nope, that's just biology. And this cord, it's just temporary plumbing. For them, it's all mechanics. And their conclusion is pretty grim. Once the plumbing gets disconnected, that's it. Game over.
You know what the skeptic is really getting at here is a philosophical idea called empiricism. It's pretty straightforward. If you can't see it, touch it, hear it, or measure it, well then it just isn't real. All knowledge has to come from direct sensory experience. So naturally, their debate moves from what's happening now to the biggest question of all. What happens next? Is there life after delivery?
The believer is hopeful. They imagine birth isn't the end, but a beginning. Like going through a tunnel into a whole new world, a different reality.
And the skeptic, true to form, just points to the lack of evidence. Has anyone ever come back from delivery to tell us what it's like? No? Well, then the only logical conclusion is that it's the end, just oblivion. It's a classic argument, right? No proof means it doesn't exist.
So this back and forth really gets to the heart of the whole thing. What does it mean to believe in something you can't see?
And this is where the believer really defines their position. They basically say, look, even though I can't see her, I know she's there. They realize that maybe that's what faith is, knowing something deep down without needing to see it with your own eyes. And that's a brilliant way to put it, right? Faith in this sense isn't about ignoring evidence. It's about a different kind of knowing. It's a trust in something that you feel, something that goes beyond what your five senses can tell you.
The skeptic, of course, is having none of it. They hear faith and think, oh, you mean fear that's been dressed up in nice words. To them, it's just a coping mechanism, a nice story you tell yourself because you're scared of the dark.
Okay, so by now you've probably figured out this isn't really about two twins in a womb. This whole conversation is an allegory. It's a story designed to be a mirror reflecting our own world and our own big questions about life.
Yeah, their tiny, dark world, that's supposed to be our world. And their arguments, well, they're our arguments.
Let's just spell it out, right? The womb, that's our universe, full of things we don't understand. The twins, that's us, humanity, always split between belief and doubt. The unseen mother is, God, the divine, higher power, whatever you want to call it. That cord is the connection, the sustenance, the feeling that there's something more. And delivery? Well, that's the big one. That's death, the great transition.
And the story suggests something really beautiful here. Think about it. An unborn baby has to trust in a mother it's never seen. And maybe, just maybe, human faith is a lot like that. An act of trust that starts in the dark, but maybe, just maybe, it leads us to the light.
And that all leads to the final amazing exchange between the twins. This is where the story brilliantly turns the whole thing around and leaves the question right in our laps.
After going back and forth, the skeptic just looks at the believer and asks the one question that could unravel everything. But what if you're wrong?
And the believers answer, wow, it's just perfect. They say, well, if I'm wrong, at least I spent my time here in hope instead of fear. And then they flip it. The whole debate suddenly isn't about proof anymore. It's about how you live your life. And they turn that question right back on the skeptic, and on you, and on me.
But what if I'm right?